Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is not my first YouTube video. I have done little videos in the past. I've always wanted to get into making YouTube videos, very honestly speaking, but I've always been super daunted by YouTube because I watch a lot of YouTube myself, and I've kind of always been put off because I've just thought my stuff is just not going to be that good, it's not going to be well produced. This channel is obviously going to be about me, what I do, which is supper clubs, private chefing, cooking, enjoying eating, but I think I also really don't want it to just be about recipes because I actually find it really hard to cook with recipes, and I often don't have too many recipes for what I make. I cook very much so with my instinct, or andaj as the Bengali word is, and so I kind of want to involve you in that journey in what I do, I guess day to day, week to week, however much I can convince myself to make videos. So here we go. Today's supper club day. I have been doing supper clubs for 4 years and a little bit now. Let's get going with what I'm gonna do today. And currently it is, I think, 9:40 a.m. in the morning. My supper club is at 7 p.m. in the evening. I've got 10 people coming over today to my house to eat. I'll do a quick little turnaround and show you what the semi setup is like, and then I'm gonna make some bread and then I'll talk while I make this bread. So, hello. This is my living room. This is my kitchen where I do all my prep and cooking, and well, we'll do a little turnaround here. Here's my kitchen. So I've got most of my stuff out. That is my living room. That's the table people are gonna be sitting at. These are all the napkins I have to iron in a little bit, and obviously make the room look, you know, a little bit more acceptable and pretty. And usually I do supper club prep by myself. So at the moment, I have already started my morning by bringing out all the plates and stuff that I need for the evening from my other storage room. I have boiled potatoes, which goes in my canapé dish as like a welcome when everyone comes in. And I'm gonna just make the dough for my bread because obviously that needs a bit of time to rise. And usually if I do my bread dough at like, yeah, before 10 o'clock, then I'm ready to bake the bread by like 3 or 4 o'clock. It's a little bit cold in London at the moment, so I'm gonna obviously have to take that into account. It might not rise as fast, basically. But I'm gonna just, yeah, make this bread. I've been making my own bread for about a year, no, a bit more than a year, for supper clubs, and I really like it. It's quite like a therapeutic process making bread. I never used to be into making bread before COVID happened. And actually Rajul, my husband, got me into making bread because he wanted to start like sourdough making. And honestly, I found it very messy to start with because I hate mess in the kitchen and there was flour everywhere. And he's not even a messy person, but bread making is a little bit messy. And then the sourdough thing worked out for like a year. We even carried our sourdough with us to Australia, where we stayed for a year. And then the sourdough starter died in Australia as soon as we got there, because I think the flour was very different, the water was different. Anyway, got fungus on it, it died, RIP. And then since then, I've just been making bread with yeast. And actually, obviously it's a lot easier to manage the whole process. It's a lot quicker. And I think for supper clubs, yeah, I don't do sourdough, I just do like instant yeast bread. But it's great, and it's still homemade, and I can add all my own things into it. So I make a couple of different things with bread. I do like a Bengali style focaccia, and the reason it's Bengali is because instead of olive oil, which is traditional in focaccia, I use mustard oil, which is the Bengali oil of choice. I actually really want to do a whole video on mustard oil at some point, so hopefully that will come along. And yeah, I think everyone really enjoys it. Currently I'm making a bit of a like cheap brioche, which I've been making for a little while. It's basically more sweet, which is why I want to call it brioche. It doesn't have egg in it, and it doesn't have butter in it because I want it to be vegan, as I'm currently doing a vegan menu for the supper club. But I amp up the sugar levels, and I also do add vegan butter into it instead of normal butter. it's really delicious and I love eating this, so I hope that everyone who comes and eats this also loves eating it. Yeah, and then, well, the rest of the day, I don't know, it really depends on the menu. A lot of the times it's not the same. I try and do most of my work by like 3 o'clock, because then I can have a bit of a rest, like basically just from standing up. It's gonna be a bit different because I have shortened my tasting menu. Usually I do 8 courses, and today it's 5 courses, but one of the courses is a canapé, so it's quite small. So I think my work will be a little bit quicker, but also I want to increase the portions that I make for everyone because I don't want people to go, the last thing anyone wants is for people to go home hungry. Well, I don't know, I've been brought up in that way in a Bengali household where you have to like basically overfeed everyone till they kind of fall asleep a little bit. So I'm gonna just focus on, this is why I don't wear white when I do any sort of cooking because I get stuff on myself. Yeah, I'm gonna focus on making the portions a little bit bigger. Oh God, I literally forgot to zero my scales when I did the salt, but it's usually about 2 teaspoons. I should be fine. All good. So we've changed angles, as you can see, and I think actually that might be a recurring theme with these videos because I am in a kitchen, I'm moving around, I'm not gonna be sat still, apart from some videos where I might be. And I made my bread dough and I'm gonna be doing my aloo dum, and also making a syrup for my malpua, that's the dessert this evening. So the syrup is basically a gur caramel, which is also got some coconut, it's got some fennel, it's got some rose petals, it's got some Sichuan peppercorns. It's quite a funky syrup. Yes, it looks a bit like honey, and there is actually some multi-floral honey in it as well. I just had a supper club 2 days ago, so I've got a little, you know, stock of things that have been left over. And sometimes when I do like back-to-back supper clubs, I try and make like more quantity of certain condiments and things that I know will obviously preserve and last. So there's a few things today that I obviously won't be making because I had one 2 days ago, like my black onion jam, which has been in a lot of supper clubs, and it's basically onion cooked in like 4 different ways. It takes a while, but that also means it preserves really well. It's basically like a really thick jam. So usually when I make that, I make it enough for like 2 to 3 supper clubs because, yeah, like I said, it takes like nearly 6-7 hours to just like cook down and do all the processes, so it'd be kind of wasteful of energy for me to do that every single time. And it's also one of the things that I think tastes better as time goes on. Oh, I'm looking for sugar. Yeah, so it's to be honest, I do this with a lot of condiments type thing. Like if you've had good chili oil, good achar, good like chutneys, a lot of those things really develop over time. And you actually shouldn't really be eating it the day it's been made because it's not usually as good. So yeah, like with that in mind, I sometimes cook a couple of days in advance to let those flavors develop and also get the flavor how I remember it from like my childhood or like growing up or from, yeah, a particular incident which I'm trying to make people think about. My kitchen that I'm currently in is great, and it's like a bit of an island kitchen, but if you live in a big city, you will know this very well, that flats aren't huge, and this kitchen, the slight downside is that there's no window in the kitchen, so that is that's the balcony door, and that's my ventilation, which means things get a little bit smoky when I cook. The fire alarm sometimes goes off, actually goes off quite often, but the exhaust fan sounds like a plane taking off. So if I'm to do videos or any sort of filming, which I try and do for Instagram sometimes, I can't really put that on because it takes over all other noises. My menus are very different when I started out. I don't want to say I was less confident because I don't think at the time I was not confident or anything. However, I think as I've done it over the years, I have really developed my own sense of what I want to serve. Oh, sorry, I'm just getting my spice box. And my own sense of like, yeah, just what I want to create in terms of flavors memories that I want to create for people. So when I started, I used to do actually a lot more traditional Bengali food. And I don't want to say that my food is not traditional at the moment, because the techniques and the ethos behind the food is very traditional. But I think, you know, at a glance, if you look at it, it probably doesn't look super Bangali. But I want it to taste super Bangali, so that's always been my aim. And I started also with like sharing menus, and now I do more like tasting style menus, because I think even for me as a diner, tasting menus are just really fun, and I love sharing food as well. But if I'm doing something professionally, I've always thought like tasting menus are just really fun, and it keeps people's interests very like piqued at all times. In saying all of that though, I think I'm a terrible person for tasting menus, because I get full very easily. But I think people really enjoy the style of tasting menus, because again, it's like one of those things where you don't get satiated very easily, and your interest is always very high, because you're getting small bites of food that you find very flavorful, hopefully. And I think the other thing I started with, and this is something I'd love to talk about more, is I started doing quite easy desserts, because desserts are not really my forte at all. I'm not really a baker. In fact, I find baking very difficult, and I'm always very impressed by people who bake, because like I said, I'm not a recipe person. So baking takes a lot of effort to follow something through, and baking is one of those things where you do need to follow recipes, unless you're really good and then you can do whatever you want. But I'm not that. So I do need to follow recipes, because I have had many a failed bake. I've made cakes that have turned out to be like cookie crumble, all very edible and fine in a home setting, but it's something I've never been like super confident in. So when I started doing Supperclubs, I stuck to very easy desserts, you know, stuff that I had at home, like paesh, with a little bit of my own twist. I distinctly remember that one of my first desserts, which stayed on the menu for a while, was a semolina pudding, which is shuji paesh, made exactly how my mum makes it, and I added a hot blueberry compote on top. And I think one of the biggest developments I've had in the last like 4 years is that I now actually challenge myself when it comes to desserts. I try and think outside the box a little bit, but again, I don't want to make pretentious desserts in the nicest way possible. I love pretentious desserts, but I know I'm also not that skilled on that part of my cooking. But I like making desserts that I guess like intrigue people, but also show off my Bengali roots and Bengali desserts, which I think Indian desserts get a really bad rep for being too sweet, too sickly, and Bengali desserts aren't really like that. So I like showing off the techniques that I have seen my mum use growing up. I don't want people to come and have stock standard food every single time they come to a supper club, even if it's people who repeat come. I want there to be that kind of element of home food where things are a little bit flexible, and yeah, it might be the same dish, but ingredients vary, feelings vary, and I want people to pick that up in a food. I'm not trying to be a restaurant by any means, because again, that's the distinctive quality of a restaurant, that you get the same food, it's very consistent. And of course that has to be the case in terms of flavor for supper clubs and for my business, but I'm not crazy particular about replicating every single flavor in every single dish overall, because I really do think it can vary, and I would like it to be shown off almost, that that's just what home cooking is like. And so if you come into my home and eat, that's what you're gonna get. So I'm taking a bit of a fruit eating break. I have got through about half the tasks I set out for myself this morning, and just eating this beautiful Sharon fruit or persimmon. They're so pretty and bright orange. So I always try to take like a bit of a breather in between. It's not crazy hectic today, like I said, because I'm shortening the menu that I've been doing, so it feels quite like breezy. But I'm also trying to actually make notes as I go along to give myself like more work as these supper clubs maybe go on, because again, I don't want to be like fully chilling the whole day. I need like a bit of that adrenaline to like get me through the evening. I have to iron my napkins today, And honestly, I hate ironing. For me, work should feel like fun, and Supper Club prep days are my favorite days because I just get to chill and be with food and create and host people at the end of the day. So I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an insight into how I go about this sort of day. And I've always done it this way, even with the longer menus, even when things have been new. Like, I try not to like just keep too much for that particular day. I try and break up my day into like little chunks and like do bursts of work and then rest a little bit. And also try and enjoy myself, because ultimately, like, I'm self-employed and doing my own thing because I want to enjoy myself. This is my passion and I love what I do, but I need to ensure to keep some practices in place to make it like smooth and ensure that it stays like that. So I'm a big like list person, and I write like my day into like broken up little bits of what I need to be doing and how I structure stuff. By the evening, when people come to my house and they sit down and eat, I don't want to be like, oh my god, I'm so exhausted and I'm so tired. That's not the headspace I want to be in. I want to be really welcoming. I want to be conversational. I want to show off the stuff I've created, and that doesn't happen if I'm overtired and overworked. And I have done supper clubs when I used to do a full-time job, which we'll get into, but it used to be a lot more tiring, obviously, for a lot of creating reasons. Like, my headspace would get used up and then I'd kind of be drained. And I made it work, and it worked really well. However, I think as I've become a little bit older, I've realized that like the way I like to work is by relaxing and working at the same time, and it does not make me less productive. It does not hinder the process and the result of the work. It actually makes me a lot more efficient, inspired, and wanting to work more, if that makes any sense at all. And I just wanted to show a little bit of that it's not like all about crazy hours and crazy situations, no sleep and all of that. Like, I'm very well rested, I'm very relaxed, and I'm loving what I'm doing. And I'm in a very fortunate position that people obviously want to come and eat the food that I make and share my space with me, and I'm able to like support myself to some level by doing the work that I absolutely love doing. Like, honestly, my work days don't feel like work days, and I think it's such a privilege to be able to say that. But I have come on a very, I guess, yeah, difficult journey, and I've kind of made myself come on this journey to be where I am, and hopefully where I want to be in the future. And there's been a lot of steps I've taken to ensure that this sort of day exists, if that makes any sense, where I can, yeah, just create what I want to, be my true self, and do the work that honestly doesn't feel like work. Like, I can't explain how, like, I've got goosebumps while I say that. Yeah, it means a lot to me that I can do a day like this. Not to say that it does not come with a lot of troubles and difficulties and off days in between, but on the day of a supper club or an event or something I've been booked for, I'm never like, you know, even less than 5,000% grateful that I can do what I do. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed like little snippets of what I was showing you. I will show you a little bit more of what I'm doing. I won't talk too much more because I feel like the videos are gonna get really long and then no one will actually watch them. But here's to a start of my YouTube journey, officially, let's say. And I look forward to, well, chatting to you guys, myself,